going. All right, man. This is number 3 of the podcast. I'm here with Sean and Sean's uncle Mark here, and we're getting ready to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. We're hanging out, man. You can see this gangster background, this setup we got right here, man. Living life, enjoying it. And this guy here is a successful guy, and we want to learn from him today. So, first off, Mark, thank you so much for coming, brother.
Thank you, man.
Well,
Thanks
my first question would be, man, where are you coming from? Who are you? And just tell us your journey. You know, how you got to where you are now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. That's still where I live. I have an awesome wife, Sean's aunt, who I guess awesome runs in that family.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I got 3 kids. They're all teenagers, and so that's what my life is like right now, chasing around teenagers.
Okay,
and,
okay.
That's fun for me.
Yeah.
So I started, I work at a company that's called CHG. We do physician staffing. So long story short is if a hospital in your town is short a doctor, they're going to call us and say, we need somebody to come in and cover for a couple of weeks while our doc's on vacation.
Okay.
We find somebody for them. And I've been working there for 11 years, and I started as a rep, sell on the phone.
Okay.
Just selling every day, and I did pretty good. I mean, I hit the absolute bare minimum that they told me to hit. So my manager would give me a metric to hit, and I would hit it, and so I'd go home feeling good about myself because I was doing what they asked me to do. And I'll never forget one day she pulled me in her office, and she was really irritated. I was like, "Why are you mad?
What's going on?" Yeah.
And she's like, I just want to know when you're going to stop being the bare minimum guy. I was like, ouch. As soon as you stop, I had no answer.
Right.
And the hardest part of that was it cut so deep because I'd been that guy my entire life. Like, my wife said, do the dishes. Like, I did the dishes, but I didn't wipe the counter afterwards, right?
Okay, yeah,
you know? So the dishes were done, but the kitchen wasn't clean. And that was like, you know, how I lived my entire life. And I remember leaving work that day just so mad. And in hindsight, I wasn't mad at her for saying that. I was mad at myself for living a life that I'd been bare minimum guy.
Yeah.
And so I kind of recommitted to give an honest effort in everything that I did from then on. And it's just crazy how quickly things have escalated. I think now I lead 3 teams. I have 9 leaders that report to me. I have, you know, like I think there's 40 or 50 people on the teams that I lead, and I owe all of that to a boss that was willing to pull me in and
point you out,
call me on it.
That's amazing, man. You said, okay, I'm tired of doing the bare minimum. I'm tired of doing this. My mind has changed, so now I'm going to go down the course. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, 2 things happened simultaneous. My boss said that, and I had somebody really close to me die. Okay. And that person, at their funeral, everybody said, they had so much potential, they had so much potential. And I just remember thinking, man, people say that to me all the time, you have so much potential. But if you have so much potential, that means you're not living up to your potential.
Oh, yes.
So I'm hearing her message, and then I'm watching outside people say this kid had potential. Yeah. And I just kind of made the decision of, not only do I have to live up to my potential, I got to live up to his. Okay. And then I got to live up to my wife's and my kids, and it was all about chasing potential for me. Wow. And it was all in the mind. And that was just critical for me to have the mindset of, I'm going to work harder than anybody else. I'd had that younger. I used to wrestle when I was a kid, and my mindset on the mat was, somebody might beat me, but they're not going to outwork me. Absolutely. And somewhere in between high school and adulthood, I'd lost that. So it felt really good to find it again, that I'm going to outwork anybody.
Awesome, man. It sounds like you hit a low point. I talked about this on number 2 of the podcast, but I did too. Somewhere where your mind just changes and you say, man, enough is enough. It's time for me to do something, you know. Yeah. So that sounds like yours. Your friend passed. You heard, you know, you wanted to do better, and you felt you weren't living up to your potentials, you know. So that's awesome, man. So the next question I would have for you is, what challenges did you face? What obstacles did you run into, and how did you get past those obstacles?
I think countless, too many to count. Okay. And so the main obstacle that helped me circumnavigate all the small obstacles was looking at stress differently. So I think people look at stress and they just lose it. They get emotional, they get out of control, they it often causes them to quit. And I just refuse to quit.
Okay.
So I started to view stress as opportunity.
Okay.
So when something was coming up that was going to deter me from accomplishing my next goal,
yeah,
instead of getting stressed about it, I was like, this is an opportunity to learn.
Is that a skill that you were born with, or were you able to forge that? I'm sure wrestling had to help with that. Wrestling is tough, about as tough of a sport as it gets. Was that built up in you, or do you feel that's something someone had? So my question is that something you feel someone has to be born with, or can someone work on that?
You can absolutely work on it. And what it is I vividly remember this time when I was a kid. And this is a silly story, but this is how I learned the lesson. My little brother had a water ski rope, and his goal was to make it. Tie it in so many knots that I couldn't untie it. And so he would go into his room and work on it for hours and then come back and give it to me. And I sat down in the basement of our house for an hour untying all the knots he had tied, but eventually I untied them all.
Okay.
And so I kind of approached my business life with this mindset of there's no knot that can't be untied. Or a better way of saying that is there's a solution to every problem.
Okay.
So when any stress came up, instead of looking at it as, oh man, this stress, this sucks, I'm going to have to work late, I'm going to have to grind harder, I was like, what's the knot to be untied and how do I untie it?
Okay.
And I started to look at the solution, and then pretty soon you get into such a solution mindset that you can live there. And so anytime a problem comes, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Because there's a fix to it. And you just have to consciously remember there's no problems. I remember one time telling my boss, she's like, do you ever feel like you're in trouble? And I said, no, I don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Because there's no trouble to be had when there's a solution to the problem.
Okay. So you learn how to problem solve.
That's it.
Okay. Awesome, man. Let's say someone, like, just for you podcast leaders, I'm not the most networking type of guy. I'm learning how to interact and all that. For someone like me that doesn't necessarily have the best people skills, how can someone improve on those? And how can someone become better at interacting and better at, because is that, and I guess another question, is that even needed to be a business owner or to be something that leads men? Do you need to be a good communicator and leader and such stuff like that?
For me, people leadership is the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I can crunch numbers, I can look at spreadsheets, I could probably micromanage people to get to a result that I want to. That's just not how I want to be led, and so I choose not to lead that way. So I do think the people skills are critical.
Oh, very important. Yeah.
And the two things that I would say that you need to do when you're leading people is first seek to understand.
Okay.
So if you were leading me, I'd want you to get to know me and get to know my story and get to know what drives me, and then help me accomplish my goals.
Awesome. Yeah.
In your company, because even though I'm not running it, I still have goals that I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And if you can get me chasing my goals for you,
that's awesome.
Good heavens, it's over. So seek to understand and then make it about them. So I'm sure the people I work with get sick of me asking this, but I say, did you come to work today because your alarm clock went off? Or did you come to work today because you're chasing something bigger?
Okay.
And so many people, their alarm goes off, they wake up, they take a shower, they get in their car, they commute, they go to work, and because that's just what humans do. And what I challenge them to do, and I challenge myself to do every day, is why am I going to work? And if I have a why or meaning behind what I do, it makes it that much easier to give my best effort day in and day out. And I feel like I get the best effort from my people because of that.
Awesome, man. And how do you, so obviously it sounds like you need to care,
Gotta care.
And that's for someone that, let's say, does care, someone who does care for people greatly, but their thing is maybe they just are not used to interacting with people. They're not, when they get around people, maybe they're defensive, whatever. Yeah. What would you suggest? Would you suggest going to networking events? Would you suggest putting yourself out there? Can I don't know, exercise that willpower to be better? Is there a way to do that?
I'm certain that would help.
Okay.
But my approach is probably different. I once heard an analogy of duck hunting, and I'm not a duck hunter, but when you hunt ducks, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and the wrong way is flock shoot.
Okay.
So what that means is the ducks are going to fly into you, and you're just going to aim and start shooting, and typically you'll miss because you're shooting at a bunch of ducks and not one. The right way to do it is to aim at one and hit that one, and aim at the other. So that's my approach to people leadership. Is if I go to a networking event, that's actually intimidating to me. But if I meet with Sean one-on-one and get to know his story and get to know what makes him tick, then that connects me and Sean. And now look, because Sean and I are connected, here you and I are connected. And so the network builds, and it doesn't necessarily build this way, but it builds this way. Like they're deeper relationships and deeper connections. And that's kind of how I choose to lead and live, is less is more. Especially when those connections are.
I like that, man. I think I'm much better one-on-one with people than I am in huge settings, you know. Just the way it is, you know. Yeah, man, that's awesome. So, I guess lastly, would there be any words of encouragement or any tips you have for guys who are trying to come from nothing to become something with themselves? Do you have any tips or words of advice, parting words of advice you can give to anyone?
Yeah, I would say embrace adversity and let others do the same. So, any time that I've had adversity in my life, I've thought this is good because from adversity comes growth. But what's the first thing that we do when somebody else has adversity? We try and go take it away from them. We try and help them to the point that their adversity goes away, thus robbing them of a growth opportunity. So the way that I learn, and I don't think I'm that different from other people, is through mistakes and challenges and failures. And so as a leader of people, I tell my people, it is okay to fail. I want you to fail, because when you fail, you'll learn. And so don't worry about making mistakes. I've worked with people who are so afraid because they want to do it the right way. But the fact is, there is no right way. There's no perfect. There's no destination. We're always just growing and evolving. And so if you can make mistakes, then I'm really proud of you, because you're going to learn from that. And so I know it's cliche to say embrace adversity, but I just think so much growth comes from those learning moments. So don't be afraid of them. Lean into them.
Awesome. That actually brings me to one other question. Do you feel like it's better? Okay, so you hear some people say the people that win the lottery or someone who just gets success handed to them sometimes doesn't know how to handle it. Do you believe that's true? Do you believe it's something good or important in, you know, actually having to grind your way and to earn everything the slow way? You know, do you think there's anything to that? You know? Well,
I think growing up, I was taught that opposition in all things is good. And so what that means to me, to answer your question, is I mentioned this to you earlier, but I'll mention it here now, is I barely graduated high school. I went to one semester of college and then knocked up his aunt. Just kidding. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. She was a good, clean woman. But no, we got married. We got married and had a kid right off the bat, so I had to stop going to school. And so to be where I am now and be a leader and be able to help other people without having the history of school that some of my peers do means something to me. So the opposition of I had to work for it, I had to grind, I had to go home. I remember certain days where I was driving home from work crying because I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. So all of those days now are really worth it because I've overcome them.
That's awesome.
And there's going to be more obstacles in the future, and that's great. Bring them on.
You're ready now.
But so to me, I personally don't feel like I've really ever been given anything. I kind of complain about that sometimes to my wife and kids. Like, I just want it to be easy for 1 minute. But because I've had to grind, everything means
it's so much sweeter.
I have more gratitude. I don't take stuff for granted. Like even this trip. I mean, look at this room.
Oh, it's awesome, man. Look at it.
It's just.
It's awesome, man.
What did Kanye say? I live a dope life and I do dope things. That's right. So I feel me and Kanye are like spirit
animals, huh? Man, but that's such an inspiration, Mark. Because there's a lot of people, especially the demographic of you guys that I'm trying to reach with this podcast. There's so many guys who have never graduated high school, and college isn't even a thought. And some people are taught that that's the end. You know, if you don't get an education, you can't do nothing. Just as an aside, I haven't said this on podcast. I never graduated high school either. I don't think. So that's another interesting topic, man, and we're supposed to have stopped already. But what part does education play? That's interesting, in your opinion. Obviously, an education is still somewhat important. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important to be educated, but there's a lot of ways to educate yourself.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, to start off, I was behind the 8 ball a little bit because my competitors had that and I didn't. So back to what we talked about before and the ability to connect with people, I found that I had that more because I've been doing it for longer than them who had their nose in a book. And I'm definitely not, my daughter's going to school right now, I'm really proud of her, so I'm not discounting education. Here's what I would say is, I have just learned that everybody has their own path. And you have to let people do it their way. And if that is by going to school and that's what's going to give them confidence to be successful, then that's what they have to do. And there's other people like me who like to do it the hard way. And so I educated differently. That looked to me like working longer hours for a little bit. I did some online classes to learn how to do Excel. I remember my first time my leader was like, hey, we need to have this report, and I pulled up Excel and I was like, what is this? How? Then I remember the first time I like outlined the boxes in Excel. I was like, this thing's ready to go.
I know a little bit about learning from different online stuff, man. So
but it was just 101, and now I take a lot of pride in having to have done it the way that I did it, because there's not many people like me. When I go into our leader meetings, I'm the only one that's like me, and that gives me a lot of pride, because I bring something different to the table that nobody else can, because my journey was my journey.
Wow, that's interesting, man. Hey guys, I think that's going to be the end with Mark. Mark, thanks again, brother. Hey, so we're going to go after this and do some jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to get rolled up by this guy here, you know. So we're going to have a little fun, man. And Sean in the background going to be in the mix too, man. All right, fellas, thank you guys, and I hope y'all took something from this. This is a very successful guy. Had a lot of great information. I hope you guys learned something from this, man, and we'll talk to you guys later.
So what you got to do, in my opinion, and this is something that I didn't do for a long time, and it made my path so much harder, is I heard a quote from Henry David Thoreau, and it was, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
Okay.
So what that means is, if you compare yourself to Sean right now and his ability to network, you're going to be like, I'm not that good. But if you look at where you've come from in 3 months,
I'm moving on the right track.
Holy dude, you're amazing.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You're amazing.
I appreciate it.
So focus on that and not on what could be and should be.
Okay.
Because while you do want to get better, and of course stay hungry, but there's no, if you get too caught up in that, you'll miss all the good that's happening right now.
And you'll never be in a situation where you can't compare yourself to someone who's better for the rest of your life.
You'll
always find someone who's better than you are at something.
Of course, of course.
And what we do as humans is, like, we take the best of everybody and make that into one person, and that's who we compare ourselves to.
Wow, that's true.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to take Sean's ability to run his own business and blow the whistle, because that's a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't have it. So one of the things I could look at Sean and say is, man, I wish I had the guts that he has to call people out. And then I could be like, I wish I had your drive. And now I'm like, I need guts and drive, and man, I suck.
You're right. You do it to. I do it to myself, man. Yeah.
And when I one time ran a race that I didn't complete. I missed the time cutoff.
How far did you run? Just so we have some perspective.
62 miles.
62 miles, and that was a failure. Isn't that crazy?
But I learned that day that there is a cycle that leads to failure, and that cycle. And my wife's always like, you should write a book about this. I'm like, I'm not writing a book. I'll leave that to Sean. But it starts with doubt. It starts with doubt. Doubt leads to fear. Fear leads to stress. Stress leads to panic. And panic leads to failure. So, like, as I was running that day, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I've got it in me today. Doubt. And then I was like, what am I going to tell my wife? What am I going to tell? Fear. Like I started to worry so much about what was going to happen. And then, what's the next one?
We put fear, stress.
Stress. So then I start stressing, and when you get in that stress state, like I said earlier, you get so emotional that you just forget that, like, nothing makes sense anymore, and you're, I shouldn't have done this. Why did I train? I spent $300 to do this race, and then after stress,
you got panic.
Panic.
Yeah.
Then panic's just like where you've totally lost control.
Yeah.
And I got to the aid station. I was probably at mile 42. I told my wife, I was like, I don't have it today. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going till they tell me I can't go anymore. But I had already failed.
Yeah.
Because I'd kind of gone through that. But it starts with doubt. So whenever I start to feel doubt creep in, like, oh, I can't be as good as Sean, or I couldn't be as good as you, I have to nip it.
Okay.
And I do that by starting to think of one thing that I do well and one thing I'm grateful for.
Okay.
And usually if I can think of a positive and a gratitude, that will actually break that failure cycle.
You know, I've actually been playing with that a little myself, you know, and on a different topic. They talk about how the things that you believe or the things that you think are going to happen sometimes happen, like affirmation, like, this is not the way to pronounce that. But so affirmation. So for instance, if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fail at this, I'm gonna suck, I'm gonna get out here and I'm gonna embarrass myself. You know, more than likely it is, because like you say, you got that doubt. I can't. You start getting that fear. You stress, panic, failure, and that happens. But what I'm working on now is just positive affirmation in my head. You know, I'm going to succeed, man. I'm going to do well. I'm just telling myself this, and the more you believe it, the more you get a different air. It seems like just the more you're able to accomplish, you know. That's what I'm seeing, you know, like when you think positively and you actually believe it, it's like it's almost like, I don't know, it's almost a spiritual something that it can't help but conform to what you believe and what you think is going to happen. You know?
I'm not going to live my life tightened
by
up,
fear,
grippy,
stress,
angry. Like I'm not saying I don't get those emotions, because I do.
But living with it all the time is hell. I know, I've been there, and sometimes still deal with it.
But I can turn them off about like that too.
It reminds me when you're fighting. Like if you hold those grips.
Oh yeah.
Like,
you're gonna burn out.
You'll burn out.
You
like,
will.
You can't fight like that. You can't fight in life all tensed up and you're trying to kill it. Because it just.
That's why, man, I want to get out of my neighborhood so bad, you know, because I feel like sometimes you almost have to be in a certain, like, mode just to move around,
like
you know.
Hard, like angry.
Like, honestly, I told you before, honestly, ready to kill. Like, just
He comes in one day to work. Tell him what you did. You came in one day to work, man, you had a rough night.
No, I'm talking about, so, there was just one night I had walked, I basically pulled in my driveway, got out, I carry a briefcase, you know, computer, whatever, and I carry it. So I walk out, I had, you know, my gun tucked, I got my briefcase, I may have had some food, I think I had some Taco Bell. I'm going to the door. Of course, there's a car pull up behind me as I'm walking up to my doorstep. Black car, you know, tinted windows, I can't see, headlights out, and just stop right behind me. So I have to turn around, of course. And I'm looking at the guy, and I told Sean, first thing that hit my mind was that, man, what if I have to kill these people, man? And what if I throw away everything I've worked for? You know,
the window goes down.
Yeah, if the window goes down, I'm gonna shoot. I'm gonna just start shooting, because that's just the way drive-bys happen. I know what's up. Thankfully, they kept moving, but I'm like, man, this just simple something like that could have thrown everything I worked for away, man. Just something like that. And so much could happen. I could kill them. I'm not invincible. I could have got killed. You know, maybe I killed them and they died. Maybe I don't go to jail, but people come back and shoot up my mother's house. You know, it's so many crazy stuff that can happen. So I'm like, man, it adds to a stress level that could be much better if I just get the hell out of there.
So let me ask you a question. This is something I do with people at work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you need to make to not live there anymore?
Here's the thing. I think potentially, and see, here's the thing too. It's not just me. It's my whole family. I think I'm at a point now where we could. The thing is, my bigger part of what I make is not 100% certain that it's going to stay. So I need to see by September, I will know whether that is going to continue for another year. And if that happens, then we can go. But the number that if I was sure 100%, I was certain at what I'm making right now, I could move. You know, definitely. Yeah.
So, you said 2 words in there that I would recommend you not say.
Okay.
That was I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I would tell you is I know.
I know. Okay.
And what that means is you got to know that you need $3,284.68
exactly
to get you out of there. Because if you know that, then how many sales or how many hours do you need to work to make that amount of money? And then when you know that, then go freaking do it.
Yeah.
So I have people come in all the time, sit in my office. I want to make 6 figures. Okay, why? It's just been a goal of mine for a long time. Okay, why? What will change when you make 6 figures to now? Like I have this guy on my team. He said, I want to be able to make enough money that my wife doesn't have to work. I was like, how much is that? He's like, I don't know. I said, go figure it out. He's never figured it out, and guess what? His wife's picking up more hours. But I have other people. I've got a guy on one of my teams who's trying to adopt a kid, like a foster kid that he took in. He knows exactly how much money he needs legally. That guy's the first one in, last one out. Awesome. Because he's working for something.
Absolutely.
So that's my recommendation, and that's a lesson I had to learn. I remember when I made 6 figures the first time, I looked at my pay stub and I was like, I'm making 6 figures?
It doesn't even feel like
nothing's
it though,
changed.
Right?
I have less money than I had before. I was thinking.
I'm paying more in taxes. What the hell?
And, I'm buying stupid stuff. Like I have 40 Steelers hats, but
thankfully I'm there. So I need to get better with the smaller things like that. I have exactly the number that I want. I have a written plan.
Tell
everything.
me the number.
So the small 100 million. That's what I want, and that's what I'm striving for. And I'm working at it right now. I'm playing with little stuff, but I can tell you, friend. So right now I'm trying to save, stack, and just to invest. I want to start investing and stuff. Sean talking about stuff. Right now I'm saving about a month, man.
There you go.
It's not easy.
It's not. I have to scrap. I'm not living off of much, man. You know, I'm living below my means because I see potential for so much better, man. Ain't nothing I need to hit 8, you know. So it's true, man. But I feel like it's a lifestyle I want, and that's what I have. My goals are lifestyle for my family, man. Things I want to hit with them, and once I hit that, I feel like that will make me complete. So the number is 100 million, but the reason is because I know that will allow a certain lifestyle. So for me, and I don't care about
a certain lifestyle. That will allow any lifestyle.
Exactly, and that's what I want. So I want because we come from nothing, man. It's great. I want the huge house somewhere. I want to have. I have 2 autistic brothers. My 2 youngest are autistic.
That's awesome.
Man, have them out in the back in just a wonderland somewhere, man. Just somewhere safe and gated off. Man, just all of that, man.
Tree houses.
All of that, man. My mother had whatever she wants. She want to go buy. We came up struggling. She want to go buy it. Go buy it, mama. You know, you want this, go do that. You want that. I don't care about myself as much as I do about them. But I think that's a good thing, because if it was just me trying to chase some car or something like that, I would have been gave up all the shit I've been through, man. All the stuff I would have been gave up. But when you have something higher, I feel like that's so important, you know, at least for me. Because I'm hungry. I'm always hungry. I mean, man, trying to tell you, I show up, and the only reason I'm leaving because if I don't get back in time, I'm not going to be able to get up in time to keep working, you know, at the house, man. I'm there, man.
I'm left like 3 hours ago.
Yeah, man, I'm working, man, but I don't even know how to describe it. It's very few people that I run into that's like me, and that's not tooting the horn or anything like that.
No,
I am hungry, beyond hungry, and I don't understand people who are in my situation and are not hungry like I'm hungry. I really don't. I don't understand if you're a man why you don't want to fix it. I don't get it, you know. But yeah, man, it is what it is, you know. That's the stuff that drives me, man. That's all I think about. I wake up, I think about, you know, just how can I improve? What can I do? I need to fix this. I know stuff I need to fix. I'm working not only on my skills, but working on me as a person. You know, I need to be different in certain areas. I need to be, like I say, more open, more friendly, more talking to people. You know, and Sean tells me I do a good job when I go to talk to people. Yeah, you know.
When you first met him, was he awkward? Or,
no.
You get very much in your head. And overly concerned about.
People tell me that. Even my father, man.
It's not what you think's going on.
I think that if I had, when I retire, if I've got $5 million in the bank or $25 million in the bank, my family's going to care less about that and more about the man that I was when I was grinding.
That's so important.
Yeah.
That's one great thing I will say about my life is that everything else is great. Besides the money, everything is great. Unbelievable family, loving family.
Yeah.
We've been through hell together. I mean, I don't know if Sean told you about the house fire we went through. Everything, but we've had each other's back. So everything, I'm happy with everything in my life besides the money. You know, so it's like, to me, that's the last piece. You know, which is a blessing. That's a lot. A lot of people don't have what I have. They don't have two parents that care. You know, they don't have a lot of stuff like that. The background I have. So in that, I'm happy.